welcome to episode 29 of Rebels Without a Pod, the show that dares ask the question, what if Blank Check ripped off our intro format by describing Lost Highway as, quote, a film that dares ask the question, quote, what if you woke up one morning as Balthazar Getty? What are we going to do, guys?
Rat bastards.
Yeah. Big boys stepping on our toes. My name is John, and joining me tonight, Andy, who does our artwork and graphic design.
Hello, everybody.
Naveen on music and audio production.
Hey there.
And Pod Daddy Eric, a.k.a. Candyman Japan.
Oh, man. Is that a compliment?
Candyman Japan.
Candyman Japan.
If you're ever looking to find out what it tastes like to eat like a chocolate squid, Candyman Japan.
Yeah, that's where I was going with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I thought you were gonna lead me in with like a Deadstream theme kind of thing. Just went with that.
No, you're going to be launching your Japan snack box pretty soon, right?
There we go.
Yeah. And what, like 8 months?
Yeah.
Yeah, next time I go there,
subscribe. So if you guys want to get into it, it's $29.99 per month.
Right.
Yeah, I'll just bring 10 suitcases and fill them up. I don't need clothes. I'll just go with what I'm wearing, and it's cheap enough. I'm all good.
It's an inexpensive.
Yeah.
I'll make the money back. So
8 months is adorable. None of us are living that long.
Not anymore.
Today on the show, we're starting our mockumentary movie cycle with 2022 horror film Deadstream. And as like a little sorbet at the end, we'll also be discussing the nasty freaks of the movies we've covered so far. But first, gentlemen, how's it going?
Yeah, things are good. I mean, aside from some political news, but overall, good.
On fire!
Controversy.
But yeah, I'd rather not get into that. But otherwise, life is good. It seems like it's been way too long since we've gotten together. So
back. To the best of my memory, we did our Creep Show episode about, I think it was like kind of 7 or 8 years ago at this point. So it's pretty great.
I had hair at that time. I remember.
Yeah.
Right.
Had hair.
I grew my hair back. So I was bald at that time.
Well, man, we've just kind of got so much to kind of cover, like in the pod today. I'm looking forward to talk about this movie. I'm looking forward to kind of get to like nasty freaks at the end. But ladies and gentlemen, today we are starting a new thematic cycle. Our set of 4 mockumentary films, one picked by each host of this podcast. So to kind of like set this up like a little bit, because as we like to say on the show, and soon on our upcoming brand new YouTube channel, we are wildly unqualified guys to be kind of talk about any of this shit. Let's start off. I thought it would make sense to talk a little bit about what a mockumentary actually is, including like a bit of its history. So got a little write-up for you guys. Mockumentary, obviously a portmanteau of mock and documentary, refers to a genre of cinema, radio, and television that portrays fictional events in style of documentaries for comedic effect. Now, there's a number of kind of stylistic elements that may characterize mockumentaries, although these are not necessarily kind of universal to all of them. Mockumentaries can satirize current or historical events as a means to kind of social commentary. B-roll footage can be interspersed in the film, as well as talking head interviews with the participants. Characters may be followed around cinema verite style over the course of the story. Real life, fictional elements can become conflated or blurred, and the dialogue may be sort of partially or wholly improvised. Now, I guess according to kind of my very half-assed internet research, the term mockumentary kind of originated sometime in like the 1960s, but examples can sort of be seen as early as the 30s, including April Fool's Day news programs and the Orson Welles broadcast of War of the Worlds. Starting in the 1950s, this is something I just learned, the widespread availability of archival footage contributed to the usage of the form. A well-known example was a prank BBC presentation in 1957 on a fictional spaghetti harvest that they claimed was taking place in kind of rural Switzerland. All right.
Spaghetti harvest? Explain the spaghetti harvest to me.
Okay. I just watched this. I will share a BBC kind of archival sort of the BBC kind of archival footage of this. It's available on YouTube right now.
Okay.
And it's all this black and white footage of like Swedish people walking around an orchard, just pulling raw spaghetti off of trees. All right, accompanied by like 3 straight minutes of really serious, really kind of solemn British newscaster narration of man, the Swiss just have such a great bumper crop this year with the spaghetti, and that they're kind of going on like the traditional sort of wine and spaghetti meal that they have at the end of each harvest, and how they get all the shit like uniform length. I texted this link to a buddy of mine who actually lives in the UK, and the only thing he texted back to me was just classic. So,
seriously,
yeah.
my only question was, when's John gonna get to the meatballs? Buddy, come on! It's Swedish people picking out spaghetti. You can't tell me there's no meatball bushes.
That's an autumn crop, and you basically have to kind of go to like kind of the northern Switzerland for that. You have to be like kind of like the Austrian border.
The Norwegians are stealing all the meatballs.
It's mind bending. This thing, 1957. It for all the world looks like a Tim and Eric sketch. It's so fucking funny.
It's brilliant. I bet everybody who saw it at the time, they're like, this person is fucking brain damaged. But all the smart people were like,
we got hundreds of phone
something.
calls. Hundreds of phone calls. Either what the fuck are you people doing, or how do I get my own spaghetti?
God, I'm so hungry. You guys figured it out.
Right. It is kind of reassuring to know that people are also kind of stupid then. Directors like Woody Allen, Albert Brooks, and Federico Fellini created notable mockumentaries in the 60s and 70s, as do comedy shows like Monty Python and Saturday Night Live. Now, the 80s saw several widely successful mockumentary films, including The Gods Must Be Crazy by Jamie Ewis, Zelig by Woody Allen, and just all-time classic and personal favorite, This Is Spinal Tap by Rob Reiner. More recent well-known works include the films of Christopher Guest, one of which we'll be covering like later in the cycle, and also Sacha Baron Cohen, and major American TV shows like The Office, Parks and Recreation, Modern Family, and What We Do in the Shadows. There is also the IFC Seth Meyers and John Mulaney program Documentary Now. I don't know if any of you guys have watched it.
Yes.
Which actually remakes famous documentaries into the mockumentary format. So, Naveen, I believe this one was your pick. So for the new listeners, do you want to kind of circle back and tell us like a little bit about why doing this film that this theme was interesting to you? Oh, Andrew.
Nope, Eric's pick.
Mockumentaries? Not I.
Oh, mockumentaries. I'm sorry, my bad. I thought you were talking about the actual movie itself.
No.
I'll be honest with you.
I'm kind of getting axe to grind energy with Andy like a little bit. It's it kind of happens every time we sort of do a horror movie.
Here's a funny thing with mockumentaries, right?
Right.
When Naveen brought it up, like that was one of his choices, it took me a second for it to click. I was like, oh, that's what you call those types of movies. Like I just don't. If you watch a documentary, it's a documentary. If you watch something funny that is like a found footage or like a documentary style like film, I think it is like a documentary.
Right.
But if it's like humorous or weird, then I'm like, yeah, I guess that's a mockumentary. I'm not alone here. Don't put me in the corner.
You are very much alone here, and it's a 4-way video chat, so you are literally in the corner.
You know what, John? I fucking thrive in the corner, so staying here.
Okay, be honest. When you had this realization, were you eating a bowl of spaghetti and meatballs?
I was picking them off the trees.
Naveen, mockumentary. Jazz at the same time too. So
yeah,
when you're doing pasta, you got to be listening to jazz.
You meet a woman with spaghetti for hair. Oh God, I would die happy and fat.
I don't know. I'm a tortellini man, but that's just me.
A little too much cheese.
Ethnic.
Stop.
Right. All right. So, yeah, I mean, we were thinking of different categories when we started just this whole pod thing and trying to make it a little bit different than just your same old movie podcast and add a little flavor to it, I suppose. And I couldn't think of anything original like superior sequels or something like that, which sounded really cool. But I thought of documentaries, but then I'm like, what about the mockumentaries, the ones that, try to do this documentary style format, but, do something different with it, whether it's humor or a lot of these found footage horror kind of type movies that have come out in the past 20 or so years.
Or also kind of weirdly, like the biggest American TV shows of like our adult life. This is the wild thing about kind of thinking about.
Yeah.
But,
Yep.
Definitely. So I figured it'd be nice to get a little perspective into it and see what we come up with.
I mean, we've already found out about Spaghetti Harvest, so this is already kind of
right.
Yeah, it's already paid off.
I mean, I hope the chef was interviewed for it.
I believe in Switzerland they prefer to be called orchardists, but like my information on that might be wrong.
I mean, if anybody would know, it would be Johnny Appleseed.
Hey.
Hey.
Naveen, cut all that out, please. Thank you. So I was thinking about sort of kind of like sort of kind of general discussions like the theme, and I had a couple questions. But I think I would like to kind of keep these let's kind of put a pin in some like these things for or maybe a conversation later on down the line once we've watched and kind of talked about a few more of these movies. But two things that kind of came to mind immediately, kind of when I was doing the research for this for this history of the genre was first, what is it about sort of the comedic parody of documentaries that is so effective? What is it about sort of the film genre of just kind of walking around, interviewing people, trying to kind of study and understand things? What is it about that? What is it that makes it so easily turned into something that can have like a very kind of strong comedic premise? I mean, kind of documentary now is literally it builds its whole concept on, here are all these kind of like accomplished sort of kind of well-known documentaries across like a huge sort of like kind of varieties of topics. Everyone, I mean, obviously it's people kind of like Seth Meyers and John Mulaney and Bill Hader, Fred Armisen actually kind of working on them. So it's a number of kind of geniuses on the field are like adapting it. But what is it about the documentary that sort of makes like that pivots like so like easy to do and kind of so effective? And the other question that I'd like for us to kind of like circle back to at some point is why is this kind of why is this sort of like a niche film genre kind of still? I looked it up. There's been no major cinematic releases of mockumentaries like in the United States. Last year there was a single one called Theater Camp, which to my understanding I didn't see myself, but supposedly was kind of like pretty good, but it was like a kind of small indie film. Why is this kind of like a niche film genre but so popular even now as like a way to do TV?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. And you said you wanted to kind of wait till we watched.
I just kind of
on that. Yeah.
Once we've kind of like dived into like these movies and kind of thought about them a little more, I thought that kind of might be like at least those two questions. Maybe let's kind of circle back to like a little bit later.
Right. Keep them in mind.
Sounds good.
Yeah. But unless there's anything else, why don't we kind of jump into the film? So
let's do it.
So Deadstream. Our topic for tonight is a 2022 horror film directed by Joseph and Vanessa Winter. Synopsis in brief. The Wheel of Stupid Things to Do, a proud American tradition.
I agree.
Produced by Shudder, Joseph Winter stars as Sean Ruddy, a live streamer who attempts to accrue followers by spending the night in a haunted house. This small budget film premiered at South by Southwest before debuting on the streaming platform and currently holds a solid 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. Leslie Felperin writes for The Guardian. Although the whole concept is quite daft, Winter's energetic and committed performance adds a bit of heft without ever forfeiting the comedy entirely. Likewise, the film keeps toggling deftly between ghouls, gross-out moments, and self-mocking silliness. It's hard not to like something that works up to a climax where a potato gun is suddenly put to murderous purpose. All right. So this one, Eric, this was your pick?
This was my pick. I just want to say I am so excited today to talk about this. I really wanted you guys to see this film. I first watched it in when it just came out, the night it came out on Shudder in 2022 around Halloween. I went and got a Shudder account. I think it was my first time, and this was the first movie I watched, and I loved it. And I think the thing that I loved about it is I had no idea what the hell it was about. And so I went in blindly, and then I think I was confused for the first half hour or so.
Okay.
And then when just shit goes crazy, it just keeps going crazy for like the last 45 minutes or so. But I thought it was such a fresh idea because I hadn't seen, outside of like, found footage films like Blair Witch Project or something. I hadn't seen something where they took like a modern theme, like, a YouTuber doing like a live stream at a haunted house. And I was like, what a cool concept. I didn't realize there was like another movie that came out around the same time as well. That was what the hell was it called? Dad Gets the Axe.
Dad Gets the Axe.
Dad Gets the Axe. I guess this one got put on Shudder around the same time as well. I think it came second. This was about like 4 influencers that I guess went to a haunted house, but that one, it just kept toggling between their different like views. So you got 4 different experiences, but I mean, I thought one was enough. But yeah, this movie, just so many great things about it. It really embodies like Evil Dead 2 vibes. I mean, like the character Mildred is.
You have to assume the filmmaker saw Evil Dead 2 about 1,000 times.
I mean, it's a horror movie. Who is not, who's gotten into horror that's not seen Evil Dead 2 or any of the Evil Dead movies for that matter. The thing I want to say though is, and I don't know why, I think I'm channeling Andy, but I think when they introduce Sean and he's so whiny and he's just the whole time he's just jumping and screaming at small things. Right. I could see how a lot of people might not really like him. He's just kind of annoying. He gets on, he kind of bothers you. He's just, I don't know. He's a very weak protagonist.
Yeah, it's like if they made a Scooby-Doo movie that did not have Fred, Daphne, or Velma.
Yeah, thank you.
It's something that was just purely about the cowards.
I don't know. I just felt like when I was watching this, and it's tough because I don't think anybody watches it and really relates to Sean. Like, Sean's great. I like Sean. He's just like really strong character, and I hope he survives. The second I was introduced to Sean, I'm like, God, I hope something unfortunate happens to him. I really want him to lose.
It's funny, like the at least my personal experience, like the whole time you kind of like him, but you also really want him to die.
Yeah. Those moments are clapping when it's like the potato gun. He took like the bobblehead, sticks in the potato gun, shoots a hole through the the zombie dude, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, it's cool. He's gonna make it, and then the guy, he's like, oh no, there's a hole, and then the guy just slides down the gun through the hole in his chest and just falls on top of him, and I'm like, okay, that's it. Now he's gonna die, but no, he gets up and he just keeps fighting.
So a question about like the other kind of streamer found footage horror that you mentioned. Is this one also a comedy?
The other one is a comedy.
Okay.
Yep, it's supposed to be. I don't know why I heard Deadstream is the better version of this. But I guess Chad Gets the Axe was inspired by. I didn't watch it. It was the Black Mirror episode Bandersnatch, the one where you could like choose your own adventure kind of thing. I have no idea what that's about, but I guess maybe it was a similar premise.
Andy Naveen, any memory of that episode at all?
I remember watching it and really being excited to at the prospect of it, and then being left kind of bored with it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I haven't finished the movie because every time I chose something, it'd be like, nope, you failed, and I have to start all over.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of where I burnt out on actual choose your own adventure books. Like at a certain point, I'm just like, okay, and then I was eaten by a shark. Okay, am I actually having fun with this? No.
Yeah.
Well, you got to go back and reread the same stuff, and like reading it the second time, I'm like, okay. The third time, it's like I'm done.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. The just kind of sort of speaking, kind of generally to kind of like horror genre, we got a lot of found footage horror films after like the success and kind of like the cultural event that was, you know, the original Blair Witch Project, obviously. But one of the things I think that's kind of interesting genre-wise about this is it's, other than this movie and this other thing you're describing, kind of Chad Gets the Axe. Eric, you're probably like the you know, kind of like the real horror, like the, you know, like the truest horror fan out of the four of us. Are there other comedic found footage horror films like this, or are those kind of just like the only
horror films that are comedic?
Yeah, because obviously for like, you know, you got the Paranormal Activity series,
I know.
Cloverfield, you got like a billion actual sort of kind of straight ahead, terrifying kind of genre films like that. But the sort of funny ones like this, part of what I thought was interesting about the movie was
I can't think. When I saw this movie, I remember asking myself the same question. I'm like, what else is there like this?
Sure.
And I really can't think of one. There was another movie I had seen. It was a Japanese movie based off a French movie. That was like a zombie movie where it was like a documentary about filming the making of a zombie movie, like a low budget zombie movie. And that one has some comedic elements to it, but I don't think I would like pan it as like a comedy.
It wasn't a nose to tail comedy film, the same kind.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, so let's get to general impressions. Naveen, Andy, what'd you guys think?
Say it, Andy. Say it.
Yeah.
I got pointed at, I think.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell he was pointing. He just pointed at the screen.
All right,
so
Naveen.
all of you. So I'll go. This was great.
All right, sweet. Yay.
It was fun. I actually watched it twice.
Whoa, wow.
I just enjoyed it. Like
more money in Sean's pocket.
Yeah, I know.
suppose so. But it was just fun. Like it began, you know, Blair Witch. He was like, okay, it's Blair Witch. But then it was just all this comedic stuff, his screams, and were just great. But it also had that horror feel. Like they would give you kind of a little suspense and jump scares and those kinds of things. Yes, it would get kind of comedic sometimes with the way he reacted, but it was just so much fun. And even just his acting was, I don't know, really good or really bad. I can't really say because he acted kind of like some of these influencers would, I would assume. You know?
His acting exactly captured, I think, the character and the vibe of what he was going for.
Yep.
And that's tricky because you have like, you know, you can have like a kind of like a Skylar White, Janice Soprano like effect with some of these people of just like, if an actor's really, really great and playing a super annoying character, it's kind of easy to sort of lose kind of lose track of like, no, this is craft that's actually creating this.
I love the fact that it was just like, I forget the guy's name that played Sean, but it's like him and his wife came up with the idea for the movie. They wrote the script. And I bet just, you know, writing a character for yourself, you've just got so much freedom to do whatever you want with it. So I was really curious. I'd love to see the script and see what's in there because there's so much stuff that I feel it was like ad-libbed.
Oh, absolutely.
Most likely,
which again, kind of going back to like the criteria that were sort of kind of that we sort of laid out for kind of what are like the kind of touchstone things that kind of a mock that can have like that a mockumentary can have in it. A lot of it can be like kind of like improvised or ad-libbed. Like it's Joseph Winter was the name of that actor.
Joseph. Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay.
I thought his wife was going to be playing Mildred too, and apparently it wasn't. It was just some other actress, but she was great too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Andy, what do you think about this one? As for new listeners, horror is a genre that Eric and Naveen and I tend to really like, if not kind of love outright. And horror has been met with by Andy with a sort of a much more kind of mixed reception. So, buddy, what'd you think?
Okay, so I watched it on Monday, and I have basically been thinking about it more or less ever since, minus all of the other nonsense that happened in this world throughout that time. So there's a
look out, Mildred's creeping up on you, dude.
So, oh God. So, okay. I'm gonna give. I was planning on kind of live tweeting, if you will, my watching of this movie, and I was writing down timestamps of stuff, and I was really gonna like commit to this. So, I was thoroughly enjoying myself for the first. Let's see. So 7 minutes and 42 seconds in, and I'm loving this already. Okay. So I'm really enjoying it. I like the format. I'm laughing at the jokes. Just the whole thing. Love it. I'm writing down some of my favorite lines in the movie. So I've had the nervous poops all week. Thought that was hilarious. I'm not a big fan of barbed wire, or Bob Wire as my mom calls it. Fucking hilarious. Objectively funny. Oh no, ghosts love closets. So funny. Fantastic. 19 minutes, 27 seconds in, feeling uneasy. It smells like dead feet in here. And then I write the note, something's up with Chrissy. ... Enough with the jump scares. Piss waterboarding was a step too far. Welp, hated that. That's what I got. So
what a journey. What a journey.
Wow.
Quite the journey. I will tell you, okay, I will say this in all honesty. I loved the comedic aspects of it. I thought I had never seen a movie like this where they kind of followed along with the live stream thing and whatever. I'm sure there's a million other movies that have been made like that. This was the first one I've seen. I thought it was really fun and original and interesting.
Right. So you're talking the when it cuts to like the actual sort of live stream feed and you see the people watching his live stream kind of commenting on the events in real time.
Thought that was great. I would have loved, and at some point maybe I will go back and try to slow it down and actually read what the stream says, because I'm sure there's stuff that came through that stream.
I wrote a bunch of stuff
I
down.
paused that when I was watching it. I paused that movie probably 30, 40 times. Just kind of, I'm always like, it was kind of weirdly the same thing. If you guys have ever played any of the PlayStation Spider-Man video games, there's like when you go to the pause screen, it literally cuts to Peter Parker's phone, where you can actually kind of scroll through like Spider-Man's kind of like Instagram posts and like kind of social media feed.
So I thought that was super cool. Could have done without some of the jump scares and certainly some of the gore. I don't even want to call it gore, because gore to me is like blood and guts. I can kind of handle that, but like it's like I don't know, when the who was it that exploded at one point? I don't know, something exploded.
I was laughing so much at that part.
Oh,
he
God,
just like, I did it, and then all of a sudden the head just explodes. And he's just sitting there like, what
the hell?
The camera lingers
yellow,
on John's face as just the entrails and bile is just.
I knew the scene was gonna break Andy, where it was the bathtub. And he woke up and his eyes is just like glazed over, and then he picked the eyeball out of the tub and put it in his mouth.
Why do you have to chew it?
Is it implied because he does not open one of his eye sockets for the rest of the film? Is it implied he was actually kind of in like a phleg state and just kind of eating his own eyeball at that point?
The thing that he was choking in the water that came out at him was missing one of its eyes. It had an empty eye socket.
Okay.
So I think it was in there, and he just reached in the water and stuck in his mouth. But then when he choked it out with a bag over its face, and then stabbed it with a syringe. I don't know why.
He had the syringe full of holy water.
Oh, the holy water. Yeah. The syringe full of holy water.
A quick detail I loved at the start of that movie is when Sean he's at home, he's kind of doing that setup. You see like all these kind of 8-bit Nintendo cartridges in the back.
I saw that.
And when he's laying out like his kind of his weaponry, his inventory for going into the haunted house. Everything it cuts to, like the holy water and the cross and like the steak and garlic and all the rest, has like a little Nintendo kind of like a little sort of a Nintendo sort of sound font cue. Just it cuts to and here's the cross and ringing blink, and here's the holy water bling.
And the sandwich. Don't forget about the sandwich.
The sandwich.
I paused it on the note. I had to read the note. Did you read the
so
note?
much good stuff in it. Like there really is, and like. Even being a non-fan of horror, I will say that there is a lot of positive stuff that I really enjoyed in it. I can't with the horror, man. I'm trying, guys. I really am.
I made a conscious decision to pick a movie without cockroaches for you.
Thank
So
you. Much obliged.
I mean, there was a scene where there was some spiders and Sean screamed, and I was like, "Oh, that would have been Andy."
No, I was okay with the spiders. Don't get me like that. There's something about cockroaches that just I don't know.
Cockroaches specifically for you.
Oh God, they're just awful. I used to be terrified of spiders. I'm not anymore, but cockroaches, I don't think I will ever get over that fear.
Since we're talking about general impressions for me, real quick, this will come out over the rest of the conversation. I fucking love this one too. Like same as
shocking.
Uh,
Who saw that coming?
It's a comedy. Come on.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why it was good, because it was horror and comedy mixed in together, as opposed to some of these campy horror movies that end up being comedic because it's so bad.
It's true. I felt the same way, and I couldn't remember like experiencing that the first time. But yeah, I remember when it's like, okay, the laughs kind of died down. He stops making jokes, and then I'm reading the comments, and they're like check camera 2, something's going on there. And I'm like, oh wait, what? And then they show just kind of like the ghostly image of Mildred or whatever, or they show the girl hanging from like the rope in the hall. It's like, oh shit.
A legitimately chilling point for me is the first time it cuts away from Sean's selfie cam to the bedroom downstairs. You get the black and white footage. Nothing obvious has happened, but you're immediately with no explanation. It goes to that for like about 2 seconds, cuts back to Sean, and then you see his comments just come completely sort of kind of blow up and explode. Just be like,
yeah,
Sean, the downstairs bedroom, something's fucking happened with the camera. Like, you got to check it out. Man, for this movie, for me, amazingly performance, funny as hell, tight, smart, low budget, all practical effects. Apparently, they shot like the entire thing like in 7 days. Innovative.
My trivia. You did it again.
God damn it, Johnny.
Sorry, buddy.
I got others.
Christ, it's just like innovative camera shots, and a thing I really appreciate about the film is just in like a lot of horror movies, you don't have like a clear sense of kind of like the space everything is kind of taking place in. A thing I dug so much about this film is literally Sean gives you, it's kind of like a Chekhov's gun sort of tour of the first and the second floor of like the house he's actually in, and it sort of sets up like a little kind of detail in every room, like here's the safe room, here's the room where the coroner ghost is, here's the room that seems like it's the nursery, here's a room that has like a wide open kind of window for like I don't know whatever reason. It lays everything out, and then everything that kind of happens for like the remainder of the film, you can sort of be like, I know exactly kind of what's taking place in like the geography of that. Like I thought that was brilliant. Andy,
I have a question for myself and anybody else listening that doesn't know. Can you explain what Chekhov's gun is? I don't know. I don't know that phrase.
So it's a basic. So it's from like a very famous sort of thing that kind of like this Russian playwright named Anton Chekhov. How he sort of described his kind of a storytelling premise. The idea basically was that in a 3-act play, if you show a gun in the first act, it has to be loaded at the second act and then kind of fired in the third. So kind of like there, it's everything that is kind of explained, that whole tour that sort of Sean kind of gives to his followers when he's just kind of working his way through the house for the first time. That's kind of a setup for like all these kind of individual details that he notices in every room. Just about everything kind of pays off by like the time the movie actually ends.
Cool. Oh, that's awesome. I never heard that before. I like that.
I got a question. Was the sandwich used in the end? They introduced the sandwich. It got loaded up in his pack. Did he eat the sandwich?
He did decide that garlic is bullshit.
I know. Just throws it at him.
Great fucking man! I just had just like a great recommendation. Already sent it to my brother, who's like a big horror nerd, like a big kind of horror nerd. It'll be, if Tim likes it, I'll sort of be 3 for 3 for recent horror recommendations, which is like he's kind of a connoisseur. That's very rare.
See, the one quote that Sean said that I knew John would really enjoy, and probably said it for the movie, was second floor, paranormal G-spot. He said that. I was like, yep, he just fucking let it loose. There we go. John sold.
Actual quote that I wrote down that's maybe my actual sort of favorite joke in it is when he introduces this soundtrack. He's like, Sean Carpenter's Halloween.
Yeah.
Beautifully done.
The fact that he carried around his own soundtrack on a tape, an actual cassette tape, I thought was so damn funny that he would just occasionally, you'd hear the music start, or you'd see him press the play button, and he would have this creepy music behind it. I thought that was such a smart play on his part for a way to add suspenseful music and still keep it kind of funny and like. Yeah, I thought that was great. I love
the comedy and the psychoticness of this film. It understands like the narcissism of the kind of like YouTube streamers and kind of like people who do this kind of thing for like a living so well, is that even when stuff is going completely crazy right up to the end of the movie, he still has his live stream in the back of his mind. He still has his followers and kind of putting on a show for people like in the back of his mind. Okay. A few different talking points to kind of jump off. Was this movie a mockumentary?
So I think more or less it was. So the way I looked at it was, going by the definition that you provided, Johnny, or at least the rundown that you provided in the beginning, like that didn't take into consideration this sort of relatively new trend of live streaming and of Twitch streaming and all that kind of stuff. That's a much newer kind of concept.
But if you look at the history, the idea of like the mockumentary actually sort of predates television and only came about like 5-10 years after like movies became a thing, so it's I guess it kind of accomplishes the same thing that like a traditional quote unquote mockumentary does, in that you've got somebody who is taking video of real quote unquote real life things that are happening. It just so happens that it's the guy that the things are happening to that is also the cameraman in that situation. So you don't have that like unseen third party behind the camera. The cinema verite thing, like he's filming himself. There's nobody. Somebody does actually end up chasing him around with the camera at one point, but
that's later on though. But I mean, so it has the same effect as the guy that's interviewing Michael Scott or whatever, at the office. But it's just kind of him doing it himself, and I don't know. So to me, it definitely more or less fits the mold of a mockumentary. I think it does.
Naveen, Eric, any thoughts there?
I was gonna say, I definitely ruled out that it was found footage because it's happening live. So I'm not. It's like, I mean, people didn't discover it afterwards. People were there experiencing it with them.
One of the truly great jokes is it has like this footage was found in the woods several months after Sean's disappearance, and he pulls it back to reveal it's a T-shirt. He's like, this is already up in the merch store, you guys.
That was so good. That was really good. I liked that.
Yeah. I was gonna say, to me, I was like thinking about it back and forth. I'm like, is this a mockumentary? Like maybe it doesn't fit the mold exactly of like a standard mockumentary, but at the same time, I'm like, he's in the house. He's explaining the history of the house or talking about the house. It's almost like he's filming a documentary.
Yeah.
So in that sense,
a shrill, superficial, and annoying documentary, but like a documentary.
Yeah. So that's why I was kind of like, it's all about the house. He's explaining the house and he's experiencing the house. So it kind of fits as like a documentary. It's just a very modernized version of what might be a mockumentary, I guess.
Right. Naveen, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with a hard yes on this one. As I was thinking about it, because you have all these, there's quite a few TV shows, I think mostly on Sci-Fi, maybe other channels, that do ghost hunting. Like, oh, we're gonna go ghost hunting, and so you've got that kind of atmosphere in it, but it's bringing that twist that it's a live stream and an influencer at the same time, trying to get ratings by doing this stunt or whatever. Like Mr. Beast does all these different stunts as well to, again, get viewers, people to watch, and all these other things. So in a sense, I would say it's kind of making mocking those ghost hunters kind of story things, but also mocking these influencers and
the conflating of kind of like real life versus sort of fictional events, like this seemingly completely untalented guy who just sort of doesn't have any education, doesn't seem to have like any sort of particular skills, doesn't seem to have any sort of thing specific today to say. Literally, like the first line of the movie is "I am trash," before he just kind of gets picked up and sort of like put into like a dumpster at all. You know, the conflating of sort of kind of real versus kind of like fictional events. This is another one of these fucking dudes who just doesn't want to do anything except be famous and have like people pay attention to him.
and the channel that he's on is so great. Livid. It's called Livid.
Yeah.
All right. So kind of like another kind of top level question here is Sean a completely unsympathetic character? We touched this on like a little bit earlier, but
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Eric. Go
Right.
ahead.
I think he is. I think he's unsympathetic. I don't.
100%.
He just constantly keeps I love the fact that they don't say it to be like when I tried to explain to you guys, and I'm glad I didn't remember what it was, but the whole thing where the fall from grace, where he's huge YouTuber, and then he does one bad video, and then he has the apology video to follow up, and now he's just trying to redeem himself. But then as he, they don't explain too much at the beginning, but it comes out towards the end when he's just like face.
But I love the decision that it's never even explained 100%. The ambiguity they leave remaining at it. It trickles out. There was a bum. We were fighting. There was kind of a racial thing. I was exonerated in court.
Yeah,
amazing.
The reason I say he's unsympathetic is because he says all that and he's like, no, I'm truly deeply sorry. And then you kind of almost feel it for a second. You're like, maybe this, because I think somebody brought up the video earlier, his apology video, and he's like, no, I did the video. That's enough. But then it feels like it's actually coming out, like he genuinely gets something and he feels sorry. But then he's just like, and I also want to apologize to
the blacks and Mexicans.
Yeah, the Mexicans. Yeah.
Kind of generally.
To the minorities.
Dedicated to him.
For when they stuck me in their trunk and they drove me across the border. So I like to dedicate this to the blacks and Mexicans.
Just a dude who's never opened a book or had a coherent thought like his entire life.
Yeah. I was like, what a fucking asshole. He does not.
Devine, any sympathy for this guy?
It's narcissistic and everything. There's no sympathy. He's he's definitely doing. I mean, even throughout the whole time, I'm trying to redeem myself. I'm trying to do all this stuff, and even in the beginning, one of the first things he says, like, "Look, it's not about the money," but he's like, "I got my sponsors," and all this merch comes up around it, and he's talking about, check out this search; it's already up in the merch store.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, if it's not about the money, why are you hawking all this stuff at the same time?
Right. The energy drink that he kind of keeps pulling out, that even like the ghost demon sort of turns down at one point. It's like, no, I'm not going to drink that.
And of course, he turns it the right way so you can read the label.
I have a different take on this. I really do, and I surprised myself. I kind of found myself pulling for him toward the end. I think he's obviously an exaggerated representation of, but I think he's a really good representation of sort of the way society has evolved. Like, people within society have, like, everybody's worried about, are they likable? Are they going to get the clicks? Like, are they going to appease the algorithm? Like,
just imagine what a thing we dodged when we went to high school, not having social media.
And I think that's the point of it all.
Seriously.
I think that's the point of it all. It's like, it's hard for us to relate to somebody like Sean because we're not of that generation. Right. Whereas, like, I remember talking to Charlie, my son, a while ago now, and he was telling me this was when he was starting to like think about, oh, like when I get older, I'm going to have a career and I'm going to like need to go to college and get a job and all this kind of stuff. And I remember asking him, what do you want to be when you grow up? And one of the things he came up with was he wanted to be a YouTube star.
True.
And I thought to myself, that's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, what are you talking about? You want to be a YouTube star, but like, that's a legitimate like career choice now. People make a lot of money doing that stuff.
Very serious amounts of money, but it's just, and you have to kind of think like also about like, you know, this is technology that sort of came about after, for all of us, when our brains had sort of like kind of finished kind of growing together. A thing I feel like I always read about that I always kind of like find fascinating is when they kind of do sort of psychological studies or surveys on kind of like the generation that sort of came out where just as children or as teenagers, smartphones, social media was the norm, and there's a ton of studies which are some version on the question of, do you want to be wealthy and do you want to be famous? And fame is the thing kids overwhelmingly pick over being wealthy, over kind of having any kind of sort of major sort of material success.
Yep.
Well, I mean, imagine that you're watching YouTube videos, not really paying attention, and then you're like, hey, this is pretty good. And this person looks to be like my age. And it's so easy to look up how much people are making off of different videos or month to month from, you know, people just watching their previous videos. And I don't know. It just seems like not so unreasonable in the end.
Right.
Yeah, so I think Sean is more a product of a time that we're probably now too old to fully understand.
Sure.
Which I think gave me a little bit more sympathy for him than perhaps I would have had otherwise. But he is still a total asshole.
Right.
Yeah.
A movie, I don't know if the rest of you guys have watched this, but actually, like, it's an animated kids film, but it actually has a very kind of intelligent and sort of sensitive take on this exact topic, on this exact kind of generational divide. Is this Netflix film called The Mitchells versus the Machines? I don't know if you guys.
Good.
Yeah.
So good.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. Well, I mean, kind of continuing on that with what Andy had mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems a double-edged sword, so to speak, because supposed to be giving a lot of empathy of, you know, this mental illness and giving time off and relaxing. But then it seems like there's not a lot of sympathy because we're talking about you need to do this for yourself and a lot more selfishness in the world, so to speak, where that's where Sean kind of comes into play.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
yeah,
I need to do this. And that's where you kind of don't have that sympathy, but we're supposed to have empathy. It's kind of back and forth.
Yeah, interesting distinction there. A couple questions on Mildred, played, I think, to really great effect by the actress's name is Melanie Stone. A couple questions on her. Why do you guys think, you know, the most stressful, even as a guy who just sort of kind of like digs horror, I also grew up in a really old house, and I understand how really old houses can kind of like fuck with you like a little bit. Just a few days ago, I was back at my parents' farm, and I woke up at about the bedroom I usually stay was my old kind of bedroom from high school. It has been, you know, the farmhouse itself is about 200 years old. 2 people have died in the house. Another 2 people are sort of buried actually like on like the property itself. At about bedroom I was staying at, directly connected to the like the house attic. I woke up at about 4 a.m. the other day and to just very, very kind of loud scratching like on the walls. And I didn't know what it was at first. Finally, just worked up my nerve, opened the door. My parents' tuxedo cat had somehow sort of like just snuck his way upstairs.
I was going to say squirrels.
I was thinking raccoons. I'm just like,
the coons are back, John.
You're old, Johnny. You have to go check it out.
Yeah. What's a rabies shot go for in 2024? Like, I didn't really want to find that out, but so kind of like along those lines, like a stressful part of watching the movie for me is like Andy said, it's the most tense in like kind of like 10 minutes to about 20 or 30 minutes in, when Sean's walking through the house and you're like, a zombie, a demon, a ghost, something is going to fucking like just pop out of the wall and kind of jump on him. You kind of tense for that. But then Chrissy shows up. So like a question, why do you guys sort of like think that Mildred first presented herself to Sean as Chrissy instead of like as like her demon form?
I took it as very literal. I think it was just the element of surprise. You know, if she presents herself as this sort of cute, maybe a little bit quirky, crazy fan of his, it's playing his ego.
Sure.
It catches, you know, he relaxes maybe just a little bit. She catches him off guard, and then she can bite his neck.
Right. He just another kind of great detail of Sean's character is he doesn't remember for like the next 15 minutes. Like, oh, I locked every single door like leading.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Right.
Other theories there?
I would agree with that. Just to get in with him, trust. That way she can, you know, bring him to that secret basement lair and find all those things. Just to, again, get on his good side and earn the trust to lure him to whatever she wanted him to do in the end, or to
kill
the soul or whatever.
I just want you to like listen to some of my poetry and like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a sense, the old school, you know, she probably wanted to be famous, and the only way to be famous back then was people to read your poetry.
Yeah.
You know, and the way he's doing it is by this YouTube stuff, and you know, so it's just a way to get there. And she got mad a few times when, or at least once when she's like, read another poem, and he's like, hell no, it sucks, and
Yeah.
in our face.
Hey, it's pretty good. Not
an interesting story beat there. These kinds of people have always been around. We're just a lot more aware of them now because of technology and what things are. And
Refresh my memory. What was the reason that hidden basement even existed? Was there what did he find? I can't remember. Did he find her book down there?
Yeah.
Like pretty much.
Okay.
I don't think it's not really like a really sort of fleshed out sort of part of the story. It was kind of like a reason for Sean to be able to find some of her possessions intact.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What I was thinking too is like Sean pretty much says it in the movie where he's like, how do I beat Mildred? And he's like, wait a minute. I just realized it. She's an influencer. Like, she wants to be an influencer, and I'm an influencer. So the only way to be an influencer is to, being an influencer, you know how to be an influencer. And so that's what he tried to do in the end. But at the same time, when he said that, I was like, oh shit, that explains the whole journey of Chrissy presenting herself to him, and then he's just like, you're live, by the way. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh my God, she kept checking the screen, and you could see all the comments. She'd be like, Sean, look at all the comments. Should I stay? And so I think it was just, she's haunting the house. She just exists in the house and witnesses what he's doing, latches onto him, presents herself, like Andy said, in a way that she can kind of get close to him, and then creates, this whatever nonsense that allows, him to find the poetry book, like you guys mentioned, and then have him read some of the poems. And then when he's just like, they're crap, she just goes like ape. And that's where everything just goes to shit.
Sort of related to that, why did Mildred, you think that this is not a thing I completely sort of figured out myself, but why did she keep on trying to stick her finger up Sean's nose over the course of it?
I honestly have no idea. I didn't put that together.
The only thing, Eric, do you have a theory here?
What I was thinking is it ties in with kind of in order to. So I don't know if you guys noticed at the end. I mean, Andy, you're probably covering your face, but the scene where he cuts his own finger off,
right, and
then he binds her, and then she just goes down to the recesses of the house and disappears. If you notice, he's just kind of like, haha, I did it. Oh man, I got to get out of here. And then, all of a sudden monsters start showing up, and it cuts to him, and it shows where his finger was that got cut off. it's actually Mildred's finger on his hand. It's very
no,
brief,
sure.
but
No,
it shows, or it's like a dead finger. It looks like her finger though, like a zombie finger where his finger once was, and it's sticking up. And then
it's the finger that he found much earlier in like the film.
that's
Right?
what I don't know. I mean, it looks moist. Like it doesn't look like the dried up crunchy finger that he found. It looks like a fresh finger.
It looks like
so
an actual sort of like kind of fresh, like undead. Yeah.
I don't know if maybe it was kind of like now he's taken on her role or something, or maybe what she was trying to do is the whole thing with like binding a spirit or whatever is you have to bind it with like I guess flesh. And so maybe this was kind of a mechanism for her to kind of take possession of him, because she kept doing it. And I love the scene. So there's two scenes. The one where his nose is dripping. You're like, oh my God, is there something above him that's just like bleeding and dripping down blood? And then he reaches up and pulls a fingernail out of his nose. And you're like, oh, that's fucking gross.
But
then
that.
Yeah.
Then when she goes back to it and tries to stick her finger
I'm
up there
amazed
again.
Cronenberg is not. I've never seen that before. There's kind of a similar thing, like in a couple different in the Substance and in The Fly. They kind of do stuff with fingernails, but the fingernail up the nose thing is
Seems like such an Evil Dead. Like it's a Sam Raimi thing.
Yeah.
Like let's do something gross and weird. And I'm not saying I appreciated it. I had no idea what the fuck was going on. But when he's trying to pull the finger out of his nose and then it elongates and it's like this really long finger that just really wants to get up there. I was like, that's silly. But I think it was like to take possession of him. She had to, I don't know, penetrate him with flesh.
Right. The only thing I could come up with myself, and maybe there's more of a thematic through line through the movie. I probably have to watch it again, but they would do lobotomies back in the day by sort of sticking like a pick up your nose and sort of kind of working like the frontal cortex until like kind of like sort of until things are all just kind of mush. So and it may be some kind of larger commentary on both kind of creating fucking dummy bottom of the barrel sort of live streaming entertainment like that, and actually also being the ones who watch it, whether it's live streaming stuff or whether it's kind of shitty like 18th century poetry. Both kind of like the performer and the audience has to be lobotomized like a little bit to kind of sort of be engaged with stuff kind of that dumb, like on that level maybe. But it's that could be like an overread.
That's fair.
Yeah. So one kind of question I had about that is there thinking about specifically it is just Sean being dumb, Sean being uneducated, and Sean just kind of not thinking things through and kind of doing everything for attention. I'm always like very interested in sort of logistical stuff in horror movies, and like a thing that kind of stuck with me is Sean. They mention explicitly he's driven 20 miles off the road to kind of just to get to like this little house, kind of like the middle of nowhere. He chucks the spark plugs in his truck like into the woods, and then he goes in the house. He locks it with a padlock, and he kind of throws like the key. Kind of like the key down the vent. Even like the possibility of kind of supernatural shit aside, that's still an incredibly dumb, just an incredibly sort of poorly thought out thing to do. And like what I start kind of like sort of thinking about at this point, and I kind of want to put this question to you guys is like, is there a non-supernatural version of this where it's still a horror movie? Like Sean has to deal with either wolves, bears, he injures himself in the house, like drug addicts or kind of rednecks show up, like whatever else.
I don't know if there's an actual thing, but I think it could. You could do something like that easily, but I don't know if there's an actual movie or anything that's similar to that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I was
I
thinking
feel like a better writer. Sorry, I feel like a better writer than I could come up with some kind of story around today's political climate, and a super liberal getting stuck down in rural someplace in the South trying to get out without getting called a snowflake or something like that, or vice versa. There's got to be something there, but I'm not smart enough to put that together.
Yeah, that's more or less like the plot of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Kill the snowflakes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
kind of. Eric, what were you going to say? I interrupted. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, I kind of like with both you guys. I mean, I don't have like a concrete example, but I mean, I don't. If you take out the supernatural elements, if you keep Sean as himself, and then I don't know, maybe make it more of a straight horror movie and less comedic, it could work. But the thing is just Sean as himself. He's just such like a whiny like loser character that I would just be like, oh no, he's gonna almost get killed again. And you kind of like, I mean, I kind of felt this way about Deadstream. I'm like, kill Sean, please kill Sean. But I mean, I would just get maybe 20 minutes in the movie. I'd be like, okay, this is too much. Like Sean is just too much for me. And they're trying to make something serious out of something that I just
it's one thing
so many
being
better
kind of
versions.
like you know, just being tortured by Halloween costumes versus like if just kind of just if rednecks are sort of coming after him and calling him I don't know, like what Andy said, like calling him snowflake while they're trying to chew his femur off, or
yeah. I mean, actually,
young people complain about these days.
Okay, how about this? This just hit me, but what if they had a movie, right, where they have a character like Sean, he's trying to do his redemption video, he's in the middle of nowhere, and he kind of reveals where he is at one point. What if the fans are like, this is bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
And they start showing up at the house because they legit want to kill him. They feel like, you know, it's too much. All the stuff he's done, like F this guy. You know, he
like a brutal extended prank, and like the movie could literally be the same way right up to kind of Chrissy showing up. And
think about it. He's locked in there, so nobody can get in because the door's locked.
Right.
He can't escape, so he's trapped. So it has that suspenseful feeling where it's like it's a small confined space, and he has nowhere to go, and they're trying to get in. So it's kind of like what's that movie with the zombies? The classic one, George Romero. Night of the Living Dead. Yeah, Night of the Living Dead, when they all get into the house and they're boarding up the house and they're trying to keep the zombies from getting in. It's one of those things where, I mean, or it could be zombies. You could do zombies here too. But I mean, if you want something more realistic, maybe it's just mad fans or fans that have been infected by some virus or something. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, just kind of hearing some of your stuff too. Blair Witch Project kind of did that.
Sure.
Because it was just, they were just in the woods, and it could have been any of the noises that were happening as they woke up.
At a certain point, the supernatural bits kind of start fucking with them, like their maps and compasses kind of weren't sort of working, but still, you know, very similar. It was still like a very kind of poorly planned out expedition that kind of bit them in the ass at one point.
Now, I know Jaws wasn't alone or someplace remote, but Jaws, for the most part, had that suspense feeling because you never really saw, you know, the shark until the end, really. So it built up that suspense. So again, it can be done without the supernatural, with a bear or wolves coming in, something of that sort, and it would still work pretty well.
Andy, personally, my version of cockroaches is crocodiles and alligators. I illuminated that sort of pre-podcast when we were talking sort of like before, like Creep Show, like the other day. But that there's a relatively recent horror movie with Barry Pepper called Crawl, where a young woman kind of goes like a young woman goes to this kind of hurricane hit town, like on like the Florida coastline, that just everything is kind of flooded, and she's there. Her father's kind of homebound for whatever reason, and she kind of basically sort of makes her way to the house and tries to rescue her father from like their flooded home. But when she actually gets there, like the entire house is just kind of chock full of alligators, and that's absolutely nuts.
Johnny's nightmare.
Right.
Surprised you didn't bring that up on the pod with your dad and Uncle Normie.
We were in too good of a mood, and like we were kind of in the 70s. We were kind of like in the 70s at that point.
Yeah.
If I can get them on mic again, maybe we kind of like do like the next decade, sort of see how it pans out. Yeah. Gentlemen, Vigo's toes, or any closing thoughts at all for this one?
What do I got? The house was used in a different movie. I never watched it. It was an HBO film made in '99 called Made Men with Timothy Dalton and Jim Belushi.
Really?
So that's pretty interesting that they were able to use
Made Men.
Made Men, MADE
Okay.
Men.
Oh, you're trying to say Mad Men, and I was like,
No.
that's not the right actors.
Nope, Made Men.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, otherwise you had gotten my
John
other one.
Hamm is what happens when Timothy Dalton took the substance.
Yeah. You had mentioned my other ones of majority of the film being shot in 7 days, practically done gore and monster effects. Actually, the dog sled one was pretty neat. That it was the first stunt that they shot for the movie.
Sure.
Was the dog sledding one?
Oh wow.
Where he was almost naked dog sledding.
Yeah. What about the baby Moses? Baby Moses going down the street.
Oh yeah.
I guess his wife was actually in that shot.
Seriously.
Yep. I don't know what she played. She played mother to baby Moses or something like that.
She the one that pushed him into the.
I think so. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
The only thing that I had
Right.
is like this isn't even trivia. Like I love the wordplay of like demonize and demonetize. Like that was like fun.
I don't have a trivia thing at all, but I couldn't find a place in this conversation to bring this up, and I feel like compelled that I still need to call it out because to me it was one of my favorite parts of the entire movie.
Okay.
I really like running bits that kind of like arch throughout an entire story, or you know, even better when they go over multiple seasons, like in Community, where there's the whole Beetlejuice thing. I love that stuff. I love that stuff. And in this
Community
one,
being the platinum standard of that kind of thing.
yes, absolutely. In this one, the thing I chuckled so much every time he would curse, he would swear, and he would go strike two. He only gets 3 strikes, and the fact that he's like in the middle of this major crisis situation, and he says shit, and he goes strike two or whatever. I thought that was so goddamn funny throughout the entire movie. Anyway, I thought that was great.
A line I wrote down.
Mother Frogger.
Yeah,
that was good. Mother Frogger. That
freaking Mildred, she's such a C. God.
Yeah.
Just for me, I don't know any other kind of jokes we want to shout out, but I laughed so goddamn hard at the. Remember, he set up like the one exterior camera on the house, and it got triggered when he jumped out like the second story window.
Yeah.
It just the movie just goes completely silent, and you see it just flying out the window, fall into the bush.
Speaking of the cameras, I love when he puts the GoPro on Mildred's head, and he puts in Mildred cam, and he backs it back out, Mildred cam.
Yeah. I liked Beef Cam.
Yeah.
Yep. Also great.
Beef jerk.
This is actually like a genius like bit of filmmaking, but spear cam. You see just like the tip of the sphere when like the ghost grabs it and he stabs him, and when you see like the spear pulled out, you see blood on like the tip of the spear. Like
Yeah, it was
really
like a
great
video game, like
it really felt like
first-person shooter kind of.
Yeah.
Really felt like
there were a lot of really funny, just little bits and pieces throughout the movie that made me laugh pretty hard.
That's all my notes is just all the jokes. Like there's so many things, just random stuff. I don't know why I laughed, but he's walking in that room and it has like the doll and it's just like the sheet on the bed, and he's like, what if Haley Joel Osment was sitting there as an adult? What?
Yeah.
So
has he made any other movies? Is this the only thing he's ever done?
This
is it.
This is pretty recent. This is only like a couple years ago.
Yeah,
I really hope that they sort of make more stuff and just.
I wrote a sequel for this, by the way. This was my Vigo's Toes. I had to do this, but I was like, what do? Do you use something new, something completely different? You just kind of build off of this. And you see a lot of those movies like Paranormal Activity, they made like 17 of them or something. Blair Witch made sequels.
Right.
So you just get stuck in that sequel cycle and you just keep repeating the same shit. Right. So I was trying to think, I'm like, how could he do this where it wasn't like another follow-up YouTuber shows up and does the whole same experience and has his battle with Sean or something? So my premise for a sequel, it's probably going to get stolen because I think it's that good, or maybe not. But what if it starts right after, you know, that he filmed that live stream? Because you do see, like, in the comments, some people are like, "Hey, we're coming from Idaho to come find you and pick you up." So you see, it seems like people are like, they're gonna come find him because some people are taking it seriously. But I was thinking too, what about YouTubers that are watching this? Because he had 6 billion viewers.
Right.
So they're like, we can cash in on this. We should totally just go and you know, prove it's a hoax or whatever. Just show up at the scene.
Oh.
So what if the movie starts where it's the house, YouTubers start showing up after watching the live stream, and when they go in the house, you know, whatever happens, Sean sticks his finger up their nose or something, but people start entering, he starts possessing them. And because of, you know, the whole YouTube like influencer mindset, what he does is he possesses these people where they start making videos now. And so he's building his own empire of YouTubers.
I like this a lot.
And so it keeps getting bigger and bigger, and people are like, this is weird, and people keep going to the house. And in the end of the movie, when it seems like, you know, he's just taking over the world with his whole thing, the boy that was in the first film, the one that he's like, hey, Sean, you know, that thing with a hand on it, and he explains that sealed, you know, sealed milk to the house.
From the evil eye.
What he does is he shows up at the house and he sees Sean and he's like, hey, I became a YouTuber because of you. And I was like one of your first fans. And I was there before like any of that stuff ever happened. And even after what happened with like the homeless guy, I was still, you know, a big fan and I supported you. And then I feel like Sean at that moment, in a moment of weakness, that's when the boy uses a hand that he created or hands like whatever it is, like picture or whatever, and seals him to the house, and then it releases all the YouTubers.
Right. I like this premise a lot. It reminds me a lot of like Aliens, where you have kind of like a similar idea of like what's fascinating about that movie is it's the people, it's you know, the core concept of Aliens is this time it's a bunch of people who know that they're in a horror movie, go in thinking that they're prepared to be in a horror movie, and then just kind of get decimated like the exact same way people did like in the original film.
That's the new Aliens film.
That was the James Cameron sequel.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess. Yeah. Okay. I see.
Where
I see what you did there.
They come back to the colony with all the space marines, and they know there's going to be xenomorphs. They come in. They got, you know, they kind of like an early kind of a horror live stream.
Cocky.
Yeah, so cocky at the start.
That's when you want to see them get eaten, their chest split open, and it's so goddamn rewarding.
And then one person just kind of chucks a bulb of garlic and is like, nope, definitely bullshit.
Yeah. Yo, holy water over here.
All right.
The goggles do nothing.
So let's wrap up Deadstream there. Eric, really fun movie, sort of great pick.
Good pick. Good pick.
Yeah.
All right.
It's great. So, I just want to say a couple things if I got real quick. Just I love how they made a Deadstream, you know, based off of live stream.
Right.
And even the artwork on Shudder, how they made it really that your typical artwork of horror movies, the way they had the hand holding the camera and the dark look of it, they just really went for it, which was really cool well with the artwork. The title or the box cover, I guess, I mean, you can't really say it's box cover because it's not like you're showing DVDs or VHS anymore.
Yeah.
Right. You had to back it. You can get like a physical box, but I think you had like back like the, you know, the GoFundMe or the Kickstarter. It's like a stretch goal.
Patreon.
Yeah.
It's on his merch page.
Yeah, check.
I feel like I would actually buy like Deadstream merch. Like I Andy, maybe an idea for the t-shirt shop, just like a hand.
I like it.
Bulb saying garlic is ... Maybe.
Okay.
So here's a little story I have. So there's a website. It's called Witter Entertainment, and what they do is they make actual like VHS tapes for recent horror movies. They've done it for like the Terrifier series. They've done it for they did for Deadstream. And they I've actually bought maybe like 6 or 7 at this point. I have a VCR my parents just dropped off at my house once because I was like, hey, I remember watching, tons of movies as a kid, and I'd be curious to see a bunch of the stuff that I had like, recorded when I was younger. And at the same time, I'm like, I could just pick up new horror movies, especially stuff like you'd love to watch where it's a little grainy or it's not as crisp. And I remember Deadstream was, when they posted that video, like I think it was like 2 weeks out there, like, we are doing limited copies of Deadstream. We're going to release on VHS. I think it was like the first 100 copies were actually signed by the guy that plays Sean. And I was so excited. And I went and tried to buy one. And I was in the queue for maybe half an hour. Didn't end up getting one.
Seriously?
Bummer.
Yeah. They you can buy it now. They have it. Then unsigned one, but I wanted to sign one. I saw somebody selling it. I think it was, you could buy it for maybe $40 when it went on sale, but somebody's selling for like 150 on eBay. But what's that movie that it's on Shudder now, but the one about it's like the late night host where he
Late Night with the Devil.
Late Night with the Devil. I think I told you this. They released that on VHS on Winter. And this was the first time they ever recorded movies on its glow-in-the-dark cassette tapes.
Oh, no,
and
shit.
Again, I think it was limited to like maybe 500 copies. I went, first 10 minutes got copies. So
that was a good movie. I watched that too.
Yeah, it was a great movie. And I was like, I just love to watch that. And glow-in-the-dark like VHS tape.
Does anybody here still have a working VHS?
Eric.
VCR?
Yeah.
Do you have it connected to a flat screen TV?
Yes. Have I tried it out? No.
But
I do
curious
have
like
30 tapes I got from my parents' house that I love to check out. I have one that was videos I made for a class in college. We'd have these group projects and we'd have to do these like, funny videos about like whatever, like some book we read or something like that. And so it was like me and a group of like 5 other people. And so I have the tape of that and I'm like, I gotta watch.
Yeah, I'm curious what a VHS would look like on a LED TV or LCD TV.
I have no idea. I mean, I have like a small TV up in my attic.
Right.
I could just bring down and connect to like one of the tube TVs, but
yeah, I'm not even sure
Heavy.
they're making kind of CRT TVs anymore by some agreement with like the Geneva Convention or like whatever else. But yeah. Maybe a Patreon series like coming up.
I don't know.
Let's go to our sorbet. So like pivoting a little bit, we've been talking about a couple kind of nasty freaks in this episode. Chrissy specifically, when I was like flipping through like the letterbox reviews of this movie, there was multiple sort of letterbox reviews that for Deadstream that just said some version of it. Yeah, you know what, Chrissy can have my soul. It's like
I love the comment. Everybody's comments were like fuck Sean, I want Chrissy, and there's so many people's comments that are like, oh, she's so hot. Keep Chrissy.
That's how it just more hipster Aubrey Plaza energy.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Can't argue it. But let's we had this idea. We previously like to this record done our first ever like a fully in-person podcast like ahead and kind of after watching a Creep Show. But in sort of like the other conversation we had that day, there's a little bit of idea of like, why don't we talk about some of the other kind of nasty freaks that we've seen kind of like in the movies that we kind of covered on Spot and kind of talk about like things that we like about them. I sort of brought up during this conversation just what a nasty freak I thought the Gnome King from Return to Oz was, and like it's just in sort of like the progression that he has specifically when kind of Dorothy is in his kingdom, and he basically kind of owns like what's essentially just like a like a haunted Christmas tree shop. And every time like he gains a soul, like the first 2 things he does when he starts gaining souls is he goes from like a claymation animation to having human eyes, and then he seems to then be smoking what is like a magical crack pipe.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So he's hanging up. He's kind of sending more people like in the Christmas tree shops. He becomes sort of more and more human, and he's literally like smoking rocks at one point. And then Dorothy comes up to him, and she's like, "How did you get all this power?" And the Gnome King, he parts his gray robes, and he sticks out his sparkly ruby slippers that he managed to steal from Dorothy at her last adventure. And he kind of he does a little kicky thing. He's like, and then after that, what does this nasty freak die from at the end of the day? An egg allergy. A goddamn egg allergy.
Did you hear it though when he showed off the shoes and then Dorothy turns away and she goes, "Ooh boy, you nasty." I love how you bring up the kicky part. I was like, he didn't just show the shoes like, "Oh, dingle dangle, here's the shoes." Just kind of give a little shuffle with the feet.
7 years old, and even like when like the ruby shoes come out, like this memory came back specifically to me on the rewatch. I remember kind of thinking like back in the day, this is a little bit weird right here. Like that was my 7-year-old brain just truly not even being able to process what's going on. Like, why
The Gnome King or the shoes?
The Gnome King showing off the shoes for the first time.
Because it's funny, when I was a kid, I watched it, I was terrified. because the thing is, right, when you're watching the movie, the whole time you're like, what are elements from the original one that are just going to stand out? And then it just kind of brings me back to that. Right. And the ruby slippers, you kind of pass off at the beginning because they don't show them. So you're like, okay, this is a new movie. They're just kind of moved on, and they don't even use the original main characters that much. But then when at the reveal at the end with the ruby slippers, I was like, the ruby slippers! Oh my god! That moment right there scared the shit out of me.
What I want to shout out as part of that scene too is like and if you guys want to sort of kind of do runner up nasty freaks for like your entries, just please kind of go ahead, because for me,
are you saying he's reading
about the history of this? Walter Murch, the director, Disney had the rights to the books, had the right, like a lot of like those stories were in public domain, but they had to pay a shitload of money to MGM Studios to specifically use the ruby slippers, because that was a movie adaptation. There's silver magical slippers like in the original books. So just thinking about Walter Murch being like,
every penny
worthwhile at the end of the day, just to get like the Gnome King, like his little just.
It was for every kid that was forced to watch that movie at their grandmother's house.
Yeah.
Show me the slippers. God damn, this guy.
You won't appreciate now, but wait until they invent podcasting.
Yeah, give us a little kick, sweetheart.
Yeah. So that was my idea. Nasty freak. I kind of threw it at the guys. They're like, cool, let's do a segment. So this is a brand new segment we're going to do, and Naveen, you can kind of count down like your musical cue at the end of this. But today, Rebels Without a Pod presents our favorite nasty freaks, aka Certified Freak 7 days a week, aka a taste of the blue cheese.
Ugh.
Nasty.
Speaking of Naveen, why don't you kick us off on like the round?
Kick us off on the round.
Yeah.
Not sure how you want to do it. I mean, round one, you've got Gnome King for you.
Yep.
I've
talk about your guy.
I've chosen Rex Manning from Empire Records, as this guy was just nasty freak. He's just, whichever way he could. He was a youngin in the day, I should say, and he had all those popular people. But then at the signing, there were a lot of elderly women that were all about him, and of course, still had some younger, I would assume, teenage age girls there, and. One he turns down and one he goes for, and apparently the obviously the blue cheese being part of the deleted scene or the trivia there originally coming through. So, Empire Records, that's all I'm saying.
I was gonna say
you need to listen to that episode.
Right.
He's also in Grease too. What a freak! He passed on Grease 1, go straight to 2.
One of my favorite things, just one of the most annoying '90s conceits, I think, of Empire Records, like a movie that really kind of grew on me, but it just irritates me kind of that like there's just like this. The kids don't realize that "Say No More, Be a More" is just a complete banger. It's an amazing song. And even better music, because if you watch the music video before like the song kicks in, there's footage of Rex Manning kind of driving a Jeep around. He gets like this call on this massive satellite phone, and you hear like a girl go, "Rexy, where are you?" And he goes, "Oh, girl, I'm just driving through some sand dunes." Nasty freak shit right there.
Doesn't he like wear the ruffled shirts too? What are they called? I can't remember.
Pirate shirts.
The
Pirate shirts.
Sure. Yeah, little cuffs and everything, and yeah, he's got Riz.
Nasty boy. Rex Manning. Eric, how about yourself? Who'd you pick for round one?
Oh, this was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I went straight for Pops from Dirty Work.
Yes.
Played by Jack Warden, the Almighty.
Who also has a phenomenal scene at the start of Great Muppet Caper.
He does. I mean, that's the
Yelling
great thing
at
about
Coming Up
Pops.
Daddy.
Pops was a former boxer, but also apparently worked as a news editor in the early 80s with a frog and bear that were apparently twins. The thing about Pops is he's a freak, but he's a freak in the sense that he's just a weird old horny bastard.
Yeah.
So he's just kind of like a nasty freak. He's got like the locket hanging around his neck of himself banging Mitch's mom. Which is great because then later on they reveal they're like the buddy Sam, he's just like played by Artie Lang. He's like, Mitch. He's like, "Oh my God, is that your mom?" And he's just like, yeah. And then he's just like, "But what about my mom?" And he's like, "Oh, she was there. She was taking the picture." I was like, "Oh God damn this guy." I love how he also is like, "Yeah, she was just a friend, but you know, she got pregnant because back then we didn't have fancy birth control methods like pulling out."
Just from that generation that came after the birth control pill, but before AIDS, just in that historic sweet spot, you know?
Oh yeah. He also had the photo album too of Sam's mom and him having sex. I love how Mitch is like looking at it, and then he's just like, "Oh wait, that's Sam's mom," and then he just kind of turns back and looks at it again because it's not his mom.
Yeah. Also, the scene of him in the opera chasing like the chasing the fat lady around, and like the opera critic is just applauding the entire time.
Yeah.
Like he is part of Don Giovanni.
Yeah, but I mean, Pops, he's the kind of freak that he just loves whores. Loves grabbing his own son's nuts multiple times. Yeah, he's an all-around freak.
Pop's wonderful, like fantastic pick. Going to Andy, who do you have for our first round?
I picked the antagonist from the movie Sholay 1975 that we watched for a previous pod, Gabbar Singh. I'll be honest with you. So we watched this movie a while ago at this point. I have vague recollections of it. I just know that he was, first and foremost, he's just off-putting as a human. Visually, he's just kind of a gross looking dude with nasty teeth and whatever. He's not a very nice man. He's what they refer to as a I want to get it right, a dacoit. DACOIT, which evidently is a
like a rural Indian bandit.
Yes, right.
Like the sign for them, right?
Running around in army fatigues and trying to, I don't know, prey on the farmers and the underprivileged folks in the Indian countryside. I don't know, just not a particularly nice guy, all things considered. I can't go much more into depth than that. Just the fact that he's just a nasty, gross, scrungly dude.
All right. Not just like a nasty freak, but also like
also dismembered.
Just want to put that out there, you know, in case you were thinking he's just kind of like a partial freak or just kind of freaky looking.
No, not a nice guy.
He's into some sick shit.
What kind of hater, what kind of nasty freak do you have to be in your life for an armless sheriff to stare you dead in the eye and say to you in all seriousness, "I don't need arms to crush a snake"? Just what kind of life have you lived there? You know.
And then break out some
classic cinema.
fucking Bruce Lee martial arts shit and kick the shit out of him.
Powerful kicks.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to round two. My second pick for like the one of my favorite sort of nasty freaks in like the movies that we've watched is Nikki Holiday, brother to Lady Holiday, played by the late great Charles Grodin. I remember I was on Twitter at the time when Grodin died, just like a few years ago, and all day I was seeing so many tributes to Grodin, specifically his role in this movie, and specifically how it's maybe one of like the most sort of passionate and pure expressions of just primal, feral male desire. Like the number of like photos I saw that day of Charles Grodin just staring at Miss Piggy with a caption, "Find a man who looks at you like this." It always kind of stuck in my brain. So just on that performance alone, that was a horny, amazing, nasty, freaky performance. But in the course of researching this, I found relatively shortly before his death a article that Charles Grodin wrote for Vulture in 2011. It's a little autobiographical piece where he basically describes meeting Miss Piggy in person during the shoot on one late London night and almost fucking her at her like at like her apartment. And I will kind of share this in like the chat and like the episode notes after. I mean, if everything else that we've kind of said in this recording doesn't get us kicked off YouTube, like just kind of quoting like this piece very well might, but it is some nasty, freaky shit about like a man looking back at his life, talking to the Vulture interviewer, and they're just like, what's the thing you remember from showbiz, and him just kind of go into just reams of detail. Let me tell you about the time I almost fucked Miss Piggy.
He's
nasty freak.
Genius.
Wow.
I was gonna say I thought you were gonna say there's an article written about him that after he had passed away, and
His own words, my friend.
That's crazy. I thought you were gonna say that they when they were exploring his house and they discovered like 50 mummified pig carcasses in his basement. He's just like, I ate so many goddamn pork chops.
Now that's an episode of Black Mirror.
Mm.
I'd bandersnatch that.
Naveen, going to you.
All right, my second pick was Lopan from Big Trouble in Little China. Just this
Sweet
old man in a wheelchair, just looking for a bride, and then he makes himself nice and young and glamorous with his magic, and be like, "All right, I'll take two."
Right.
Cruising
down that escalator.
Get
right
that one.
Vegas,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want vanilla or chocolate. I want a little of both.
Yeah, give me that swirl.
Give me two
Give me
flavors.
that Neapolitan.
So, yeah, old. I don't know how old, 1,000-year-old man, maybe more than that, and getting his freak going.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite kind of bits of trivia. And like Big Trouble was what, like maybe the second actual was like the second pod that we recorded, and like the first like all four was like in a rotation. Maybe my favorite bit of trivia from that is James Hahn, James Hahn or James Hawning. To this day,
Lopan.
Yeah. He's in his 90s at this point. Still has an active career. Was just very recently in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Just decades and decades and decades is like a film star. He says to this day when he goes to conventions and he does sort of like kind of like photo and autograph like signing for people, he's just like, it's still Lopan. Lopan is like 3-1 any other movie that I've ever
Oh, wow.
been, like in my entire career. People still see people that's the one people ask for my autograph.
Iconic character, man.
Yeah.
In an iconic movie.
Yeah.
Hmm.
He also has that scene too where his head gets all like glowy.
Hmm.
Like he's
Mhm.
doing the transformation from the guy in the wheelchair to like his younger version or whatever. And yeah. Crazy practical.
Good stuff.
Eric, going to you in like a movie chock full of nasty freaks, but you had your favorite.
There was so many freaks in this movie.
Hmm.
I really was pushing for Lord Humongous,
Hmm.
but I had to settle to my first freak, which was Wes, played by Vernon Wells. And Wes is the guy with the red mohawk. He's dressed in like football shoulder pads that are covered in rooster feathers. He had like a black mesh shirt on, leather chaps. He had that giant cod piece that was like covered with like metal studs, which my eyes were instantly attracted to.
Hasn't showered in years. Nobody in that movie.
Oh,
has showered
definitely
in
not.
years.
No.
Something shiny, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he travels on his motorcycle with his mute companion, bitch boy, known as Golden Youth. And he doesn't travel anywhere without him. I looked it up online. I'm like, what's the Golden Youth's name? And they're like, he's just referred to as Golden Youth.
Right.
I'm like, is he his like his son? Is he his lover? And they never explored that. So it's really kind of
he's the Golden Youth.
he's the Golden Youth.
That's the alpha and the omega of it.
Yeah, he's the pure side to Wes's nasty side. And yeah, the beginning of the movie where it's like Wes is chasing, he's with some other bikers, they're chasing Mad Max. There's like a misfire and he gets shot in the arm with that crossbow arrow. And then he just looks at Mad Max in the end after he pulls over his bike and just pulls it out with like a grunt and puts it back into like into his whatever bolt holder and then just drives off. And I was like, this guy is something special.
He's in the Wes is in the film for the entire time. And there's a version of this movie where it's just the entirety of the Road Warrior story just told from his perspective instead of Max's.
I would watch that.
I would
The
watch
only
that.
problem is if you notice, like any scenes where he has dialogue, I don't think he uses any words longer than 4 letters long. It's all like, no more talk. We kill them. He doesn't need words to express how he feels.
He's impressed by Lord Humongous because Humongous can say words as long as puppy.
Yeah. Puppy.
All right. So fantastic pick there, Eric. Let's go to the only other movie I think in like the history of this pod that we've covered that you could say is competitive for, if not the number, at least like the percentage of characters that are also like nasty freaks. Andy, ending with you. Who's your pick for your second nasty freak?
My second nasty freak, and really the first one and the only one that really came to my mind when you asked this question or when you posed it to us, Alvin J.P. Volkenheiser, as played by Dan Aykroyd in the movie Nothing But Trouble, aka Valkenvania, as Johnny will call it from now on, in perpetuity. This is a, who knows how old, but over 100-year-old, just creepy looking, gross human being that lives out in the boonies in Pennsylvania, or is it Jersey in the movie? Jersey, right?
Yeah, it's based on like a Centralia, Pennsylvania, but I think it's
that's right.
The movie sets it in Jersey.
That's right. He is the justice of the peace. He's a judge. He's a jury and an executioner as well. He sends people that he doesn't like who have done minor traffic stops through the bone crusher. Bone crusher. Is that right?
Bone crusher sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was called.
The roller coaster themed death machine. Bone.
The roller coaster themed death machine. Indeed. He also plays a mean organ, as we find out in the portion of the film with Digital Underground.
Uh-huh.
He really, really likes questionably cooked bratwurst. And he has a dick for a nose.
Right. Unfortunate choice in prosthetics. Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. Just a disgusting human surrounded by a number of disgusting humans. And for my money, the nastiest freak that we have encountered in our 29 episodes thus far.
A freak so nasty, one appearance basically sort of killed Dan Aykroyd's directing career.
Yep.
That's
I would say one redeeming factor. I don't have like a train set, but just serving a meal like Thanksgiving or something like that, and then just having a little train going around the tracks around the table with like a gravy train on it or something. Just such a cool idea.
Be pretty amazing.
From that.
Be pretty amazing. It really would be.
What a great movie that was. Andy, I've said it before, the younger generation, someday, I think in our lifetimes, assuming any of us live that long, Gen Z is going to discover Valkenvania all at once. And it's going to be like an overnight thing. I guarantee.
Wait till Halloween that year. It's going to be all cock noses.
Yep. And it'll be vindication for those of us who have loved the movie since the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Gentlemen, great little segment. Let's kind of wrap up there. Coming attractions. Next week, we continue our mockumentary journey with a little film by a luminary kind of director, like in the space, Christopher Guest. Devine, you want to tell us about your choice we have coming up?
Yeah, so I chose Best in Show. I know it's Christopher Guest, and probably going to get some trolls be like, why didn't you do this Spinal Tap and things of that sort. I figured that movie would be great movie.
It's the obvious one. It's like fucking doing like Three Amigos for SNL leads. It's just like,
and again, it's a great movie. Love it. Nothing wrong with it. But I think that was like the beginning, and he refined himself over the years, going through it. And this is great because it's a documentary with many different characters, which I love, as opposed to where Spinal Tap was just about the band. But this goes through, it's more about the dog show and then the different people and the different types of dogs that go through it. And it's fantastic.
And an absolute murderer's row of like actors and comedians. It's just like what probably maybe like the deepest bench of like any kind of film that we kind of covered on the spot.
Yep.
Right.
And this is also, sorry, go ahead.
The seriousness of it, like they really try to pull it off as a real documentary, but it's got such great comedic events.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to ask, have you guys you've all seen this movie before, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have not.
Oh, really? Really?
Oh, no kidding.
I saw A Mighty Wind at the theaters, but have not watched Best in Show.
Okay. So Christopher Guest had a trilogy he put out during our 20s. I think starting with Waiting for Guffman, which is about a community theater production that's waiting for like a famous director or stage manager to kind of show up. Then Best in Show, which is basically like a dog show movie, and then A Mighty Wind, which is like the folk show thing. All three are great. All three are just sort of very broadly well respected, and I think we're kind of commercially successsaul. But I think
Little Shop of Horrors.
Christopher Guest?
No.
Frank Oz, I believe. Like actually.
Oh, okay. All right. It's not like this guy's been a director for a while.
He
or was he an actor?
He was one of the leads in This Is Spinal Tap, and he's just like a guy who sort of just kind of been since then.
Oh, sweet. Okay, cool.
Gentlemen, fantastic record. Unless there's anything else, thank you kindly, and talk to you guys in a little bit.
Thanks, everybody.
Definitely. Thank you.
Nice.